Hello, AP Worlders. Welcome to World War II. The problems of World War II really started from World War I. All right, the issues were never resolved after World War I. And the Treaty of Versailles was so unfair that it left many people angry, which would be the causes leading us down the road to World War II. All right, in Germany, they were upset from the peace treaty for a couple things. One, that they had to accept war guilt, saying that they started the war, that they had to pay reparations, that they had to decrease their military size, and their loss of land. All right, and then the depression is going to hit Germany, and with all this low feelings in Germany and the economic problems, the rise of fascist leaders. Here you can see the Nazi Party in Germany, but also you get fascist regimes in Italy with Mussolini, but they're going to be able to rise to power with this anger. All right, here showing land that was lost by Germany. This is called the Rhineland. This area here was supposed to be unoccupied by Germany. All right, land between Germany and France. All right, so that was all things that Germany lost. And what's going to happen is Germany's going to start to break this peace treaty. All right. Part of the peace treaty was they had to keep their military size small, but they're going to start to build up their military when the Nazi Party was in control. They're going to stop making their reparation payments. They're going to start moving people into this Rhineland area. They're going to annex Austria. All right, add their land. And the final spark is going to be when they invade Poland to try to take Poland, that land back. Japan's unrest is going to start from the war as well, from the peace treaty from World War I. They were upset because they didn't get the German colonies in the Pacific. Remember, they joined World War I late. They were hoping that by joining the war on the winning side, that at the war was over, they would get the land that Germany once occupied, but they didn't. So they started to imperialize here. You can see territory that was under Japanese control. They started to imperialize themselves. All right, so here's like Vietnam area. All right, Mongolia. All right, but you can see the lands that the Japanese start to take over into China. And Japan also begins to militarize themselves. They build up their military. They're going to build up their navy here in the Pacific Ocean. They're going to move into Manchuria up in here and start to terrorize the Chinese people. Then finally they're going to have a battle of Beijing. All right, that was going to be really their excuse to fight with China. All right, Nanjing, this place here, we're going to talk about in class, and remember that place there. In the United States, we're going to have a conference, and we're going to tell Japan to limit their navy in the Pacific, but we're going to build up ours, which is going to cause Japan even more anger and resentment from that. When Hitler and Japan were building up their militaries and not following the agreements of the Treaty of Versailles, the world followed a policy of appeasement, which was they just turned like a blind eye to what they were doing. All right, they felt like these countries had already been down from the war, and so they really did try not to come down hard on them, and so they didn't stop them. They were scared to upset them. But really, this decision not to stop these two countries early is what's going to lead to the boiling point in the war. When the war breaks out, there's going to be big advances by Germany and Japan at first. Germany is going to use a system called Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. It's going to be short, fast, powerful attacks where they use speed and surprise to kind of like encircle or attack their enemies. It's like a dense concentration of like armored and motorized infantry with air support over it in one area to quick strike. So Germany, they're going to make some good advancements here. Taking over parts of France, moving into Russia, and they'll be eventually slowed down a little bit by the British air forces that will help slow them down a little bit. In the Pacific here, Japan, you you see same thing. The United States tried to stop the ship, or well, first Japan quickly took over some of these southeastern Asian and Pacific islands, and then the U.S. and British, we tried to stop the shipment of oil and steel and iron to Japan, and we were building up our navy here in the Pacific. So what the Japanese decided to do was to do a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, which would be about over here, and that's what put the United States into the war. And 6 months after Pearl Harbor, we have a big battle at an island called Midway, and that was going to be the turning point of the war. All right, we were able to code break some of the Japanese intelligence plans, and we countered their plans. And so when we were ready for them at that Battle of Midway, and we had a great victory there, and that would be the turning point here in the Pacific Ocean for the war. One thing I forgot to mention was Germany. The reason why they made such advancements at first was before Hitler started the war, he signed a non-aggression pact with Soviet Union, saying that neither one would agree to use aggression towards each other. It was kind of like a trick, and so then he was able to take over Europe and advance into Russia. However, there's going to be some mistakes in Europe that's going to cause the end for Hitler. The first mistake that Hitler does is his advance into Russia. All right, and so eventually he's going to do this battle here. All right, this shows the extent of how far they made into Russia. But here, the city of Stalingrad. And so what happened was the Russians retreated into the city, and the Germans kept attacking into the city. And then what the Russians did was once they got in the city, they surrounded the Germans in the city. Hitler, he refused to lose and to retreat, so he ordered his guys to stay. And they ended up staying during the winter. And that was the first mistake, because he's going to lose like 90,000 troops here, because during the winter they're going to have to surrender. Since they're surrounded, they couldn't get supplies, things like that. And so that was going to be a major loss for them. After that, the Soviets start to push the Germans back. And then on the western front, on the western side here, you see what is known as D-Day, Battle of Normandy. All right, so that was a massive invasion of U.S., British, French troops that were going to come, and we start to push the Germans back this way as well. So Russia starts pushing in from the east. U.S. starts pushing in. U.S. and British forces pushing in from the west, and they kind of squeeze the Germans into eventually them having to surrender. All right. Also, we were firebombing a lot of the cities, right, having airstrikes and attacking. In the Pacific Ocean, same thing. We start to, after that Battle of Midway that I mentioned earlier, which is here, we start to do what's called island hopping, fighting in different islands, and we start to win a number of battles. Another famous one is this Iwo Jima battle, or Okinawa battle, right? Those are some of the big ones that the United States were able to win, and as you see, pushing the Japanese back. And then we began raiding Japan in June of 1944 with air raids. All right, 40% of Tokyo got destroyed from these air raids. And then eventually the United States would drop the atomic bomb, first on Hiroshima, and then 3 days later on Nagasaki. And 6 days after that, Japan surrenders. All right, here you see effects of the atomic bomb. We're going to watch a video in class where you see people were... All right, other effects of World War II. 60 million people were left dead, which is like 2/3 more than from World War I. Other effects of the World War II was the Cold War between the United States and USSR. The United Nations is finally going to get created after World War II. Korea is going to be divided between the North being communist, the South not, which will eventually lead to the Korean War. And then the countries in Asia and Africa are going to finally get decolonization or get their freedom or independence from the European countries. There's also some differences between World War I and World War II. First, World War II was more of an offensive war, where World War I was a defensive war. there were 6 to 8 times more people that died in World War II. And then last, World War II civilian war, over a half of the casualties were civilians. All right, World War I, there were civilians that were killed. All right, but World War II, with the massacres, the Holocaust, famines, and the bombings of cities, that's going to lead to more civilian deaths.